You good?
Yeah.
Welcome along to episode 38 of our horror movie review show, I Know What You Watched Last Week. So at the end of last week's episode, I mentioned that I might go into the franchises and pick a later 3 from a certain horror franchise. But instead, we went with 3 remakes of horror classics.
Remake week.
You got to choose that. So, what 3 did we choose?
I'm also being really heavily gotten by my allergies right now, so my nose is blocking up, but back to the movies.
You were snitting through the whole thing.
Yeah, I apologise. We started with the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Not the Netflix one.
No, there's one from like 2022, I think. We watched, I believe it was 2003, yeah.
The Marcus Nispel Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
The Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And then we saw the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Yep.
I don't know when that one's from.
I think it's from 2010.
And finally, the one movie of these 3 that I had already seen more than enough times, might I add, we saw the Fog remake.
That was the fog rolling in.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the unseen
I didn't know it was so loud.
Pirate ghosts. I think they put some effects on it. Yeah.
I should have taken a pill. Okay.
This is a sober show.
So,
I'm dying to hear how you're going to rank these.
Well,
how about before? Actually, no, we'll do it afterwards.
You know I'm not the biggest fan of the Fog remake. It's like a running joke in our relationship. Along with, apparently, the fact that I love roll neck sweaters because the lead character wears one.
Oh, that's what you told me. If you tell me you love roll neck sweaters, that's what I'm going to think. That's what I'm going to know.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did say that, though, did I?
You did.
I'm actually not putting it last, though. I am putting Nightmare on Elm Street in 3rd place this week.
Interesting.
Then it's The Fog.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, TCM remake was definitely gold for me.
Well, I'm so proud of you. You
were in accord.
I really thought you were going to put The Fog last. But it's absolutely worthy of bottom place is the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. So bad that The Fog goes into number 2 spot, and number 1 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake with Jessica Biel. Yeah. Before we move on, so we just ranked them and we put Nightmare on Elm Street bottom. Mm-hmm. Own these movies, and on the front here we've got a review from the Daily Star which said Freddy's back, and a bloody good show too. 9 out of 10. So. They're wrong.
Good show, old chap.
And then a very strange review for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Fabulous. I've never heard the Texas Chainsaw Massacre described as fabulous before. And The Fog gets, even the mainstream media couldn't say anything good about this movie. So they probably had more of a budget probably for Nightmare on Elm Street, so they could pay someone to write something like that. A bloody good show.
Yes, top notch. Good fellow. So it's pretty obvious then what order we're going in, because we agreed for once.
Yeah.
So let's get into this Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Yeah. This is your first experience of this movie, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. I saw it in the cinema. Mm-hmm. I saw it on a double bill. The remake of Nightmare on Elm Street and the remake of Clash of the Titans with the CGI Medusa, which totally sucked.
It doesn't sound great.
No.
Well,
so
this
I'm interested
one,
to hear what
it
you've got to
went
say.
straight into a dream sequence, and that pretty much set the tone for the rest of the movie, in the sense that I think their biggest faux pas in this one was that it was just constant dreams. There was no sort of tension in between. There was no... I think it presupposed so much, being a remake. And yes, in a way, people watching this have seen the original and they will know the story, etc. But they always use that as an excuse to just be lazy and speed things up and try and make it more interesting. But how can you? Because the original was so good for a reason that it needs to be remade.
You almost can't fathom how bad this remake is. So I'll just start with what you were saying there. It pretty much goes dream sequence, scene, dream sequence, scene, and there's no atmosphere built, there's no dread built or anything like that.
And I think I got this in my notes quite early on, which was, again, the reason they were able to have so many dream sequences is because some of these people who are being haunted by Freddy, they obviously don't want to sleep, but you don't get the same build-up of time as you get in the original to be like, oh yeah, they must be exhausted by now. Because as far as I can tell, these people are taking naps on, like, the first day.
Yeah.
There was no build-up.
The first guy to die, Dean in the diner, who dies, yeah, he's already just absolutely knackered, isn't he? He hasn't like slept for ages, or we don't know why. And before we get that as well, the first thing I don't really want to make this a compare show. It's not about comparing, but inevitably there are just going to be a few things that you have to mention.
But especially with this one, because they tried to do literal scene, I guess they want to say it's homages, but really it was just bad copies.
Bad copies or insults, just absolute insults at the beginning. So if you remember that, you haven't seen it anywhere near as much as me, obviously, but the original Nightmare on Elm Street opens with just Freddy making the glove while the credits come up. And in this one, you have just like this girl skipping, doing hopscotch and things, and it has all like the kind of children's laughter in the background, and it goes on for ages, and then it goes straight into it, and it's just it's already not engaging.
That was the other thing,
you're so engaged from the beginning of the original, like what's going on here?
In the lore of Freddy, when we first see him in the first incarnation, it's not like we do know what he did towards the end, and we kind of understand what happened, but it's so much more subtle. That was another thing, apart from just having dreams all the time in this one, they took that backstory and like notched it up to the nines, including having flashback moments of Freddy before he was Freddy, when he was a gardener or janitor or something in some nursery school.
Freddy's now a guy who works in a school.
In a daycare or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, with little kids. And the little kids accused him of stuff. So, same story. The parents kind of lynch mob him and burn him. And he's come back to haunt those kids. But one of the weirdest things in this is when the kids discover this and they confront one of the mums about what's going on, and they're like, we were 5, we could have said anything, which already I was like, oh, so in this one the twist is that Freddy is innocent.
That was Quentin, the character Quentin, who said that. And
also it was bizarre. I was like, yeah, fair enough, a 5-year-old could say anything, but like a whole class of 5-year-olds, that seems like a pretty big undertaking for such young kids. But then that was psych!
Yeah, another psych moment.
Psych! Freddy is not innocent. He is a bad man.
They, like you say, they hit you on the head with it in this one. They show what he is. Now, it's not a guarantee that Freddy Krueger is a child molester. He's more of a child killer, right, originally. But before the movie came out, Wes Craven did write him as a child molester, but they kind of just went away from it as a more, as something that they might show more, and just had more. There are still undercurrents of it. But you kind of like left her, if you don't want to see that, you don't have to see it, and that's why you can still kind of not relate to the character, but he's that anti-hero. That's why he's got all of the merch and all that and things. People wouldn't wear a t-shirt of someone who does that necessarily. So that's why he's actually a child killer, but there are undercurrents there, as in this one.
Oh yeah, wear a t-shirt for a child killer.
They've just gone full out. Yeah, but there's just something more taboo about having that in a movie, because it's still a movie character.
Well, I also think the difference is that Freddy's quite a sort of, in a cynical way, he's kind of funny and as well as scary, whereas in this one, Freddy has no fun. Freddy has no fun in this one. Like, they try giving him a couple of, like, smart
I was about to say, they do give him
so not
the funny lines.
Done very well.
So we've got Jackie Earle Haley, who's playing Freddy Krueger in this. And he's obviously got the different makeup. They tried to make him look more like a real-life burn victim. So they put this makeup on him, but there's no point, because all they've done is CGI'd his face anyway. You can tell, and it just looks more like a rubber mask than anything else. There's not a lot of character to it. And I'd also say it seems Robert Englund just has, more charisma than Jackie Earl Haley. And something else that I would notice as well, Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund isn't like a huge guy. He's about 5'9", so still. But Jackie Earl Haley is 5'5" and tiny. And for me, it shows. It completely shows in the movie. They haven't filmed it in a way to make him look bigger, and he's just not. He's not intimidating in any sense.
I can't say I noticed that, but I just didn't.
I noticed it.
Yeah, the
big
charisma.
time.
I think you're right. That's exactly what it is. There was something lacking with the Freddy in this one. It was just so much more like run of the mill, whereas Freddy originally is, I mean, iconic, really.
They do a lot of they do some try hard things in this film with Freddy. So there's a bit, he's got someone tied up against the wall or whatever in his boiler room, and he says something along the lines of, "But I'm going to kill you. And did you know that if you take the heart out, the brain continues to function for 10 minutes?" And insinuating that he's going to be alive for the next 10 minutes and witness, his own death essentially. And yeah, that is kind of a good. They're not bad lines or anything like that, but it just doesn't. Like I say, it was a try-hard moment, and nothing else that came before it, or how we'd seen Freddy. They had a mix of Freddy, like you said, 'cause they tried to make him more serious, but at the same time, they couldn't help themselves but throw in all these things from the past, even lines from Freddy versus Jason they've put in there. So that's no good. But I'm not really surprised. So the guys that made this, Platinum Dunes, they also made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They also made Friday the 13th. They remade a movie called The Hitcher. They've remade a whole bunch of stuff. And the same guy that was behind Friday the 13th, remember I complained about the anamorphic, they went anamorphic for that movie, so they're flaring all the time. The guy that makes the Transformers movie, Michael Bay, again, is in charge of this, and he insisted that Marcus and Spell use an anamorphic camera. So again, you get all these like sci-fi type blue streaks everywhere. And it just doesn't. That's another thing that completely takes away from the atmosphere, or gives the lack of atmosphere of the film. It doesn't work at all. So that's a decision that has come straight from him. You can't say no because he's Mr. I'm in charge. But it's just another example of executives behind the scenes making poor decisions, especially if they don't know the genre. Don't buy up the rights to remake it, basically. And also the guy they got to direct this is a guy called Samuel Bayer, and he was talked into this movie. He had to be worked on to take it, even though he'd never directed a movie before. He came from a music video background, so he directed the music video for Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. That
seems like a strange choice to force someone who doesn't want the job and has never done a movie.
So I'd say he's come from a music video background, so he's directed probably hundreds of music videos. Then he gets the opportunity to direct this, and Michael Bay talks him into it, and he says, if you do this movie, it will open up way more opportunities for you to do feature films. So he took it, and the movie was so bad. It made money, so they were talking about making a sequel. Jackie Earl Haley was in talks. They went that far and stuff, but they actually, for once, the production company and the people behind it had some shame because the fan backlash was so harsh. Imagine how harsh it's got to be that he said, even though it made money, we can probably make some more money. The backlash has been so bad that let's just not do it. Can you imagine what it takes to make a film executive feel shame to just not release something? That's how poor this is. Now Samuel Bay has come in here, and Marcus Nispel is also the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy who also did the Friday the 13th remake. He's come from a music video background, and every time I don't
even think there's anything wrong with it, but especially the fact that he had to be forced into it. That's weird.
There is something wrong with it, because there is something about... In fact, even Rupert Wainwright, the guy that directed The Fog, so all three of these directors have come from a music video background. Rupert Wainwright, by the way, directed Can't Touch This by MC Hammer. Ho, ho, Parachute Pants. So they've all come from that, and what I notice is they're not the right picks for horror movies. Anytime I've seen a horror movie by a music video director, it's all like style over substance, and that's what music videos essentially are, and they don't seem to concentrate on anything else whatsoever. It's a running theme. As I said, Samuel Bay was told Michael Bay, oh, by the way, you'll get more chances. He's not directed a movie since. No one's picked up the phone for anybody who was in this movie or made this movie.
Well, the thing is as well, when I said that this one you kind of have to compare, because there are certain bits where they've literally lifted it. Yeah. So we get, for example, we get the bath glove scene. We get the body bag in the bath, in the hallway scene. Oh, and right at the end, we get, instead of that classic moment of the doll of the mum being pulled through that tiny little window in the door, which is hilarious. I think he comes out of a mirror or something.
He comes out of a fucking CGI mirror.
So he's got plenty of space. There's no hilarity in freeze framing this one.
And yet it was still worse.
Yeah,
it's still worse than that poor effect at the end, which was also in the original. I think it was Bob Shea insisted that Wes Craven put that in at the end. So even Wes Craven was like, "This is not a good shot." Everyone knows it, except for the producers again.
It's not going to work. It'll work.
Yeah.
It'll work.
It'll work. It'll work. God damn it.
It'll work. Yeah, and again, even just picking those little moments where it's direct comparisons to the first, they're so rushed. Like with all...
Well, they're all total shit.
Yeah, but I'm thinking...
Absolute trash.
Those are quite... The reason they've lifted them is because they are such, again, iconic moments.
Look, you've just said it.
But he does it in like...
In Nightmare on Elm Street, not only do you get one iconic kill scene, one iconic scene... This isn't just iconic scenes in horror cinema. These are iconic scenes in cinema. So you haven't mentioned where Freddy comes out the wall in the original. On this one... He comes out the wall as a CGI being, but the final result looks like the guy has just set up his computer, he's showing people how it's going to move, and yeah, we're going to fill it in and, touch it up later, but instead of just use that first thing that he did, it is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, how can we make this different? Instead of just making him go like that, we'll do that, and then he can come around the corner at her, and that will separate us from the original. After that, you've also then got the claw coming towards her, just completely ineffectual.
Yeah,
completely
there was
ineffectual.
No tension whatsoever.
And that's to do with the previous build-up to this film, the fact that like you say, you get dream, then real world scene, dream, real world scene.
It's all also super quick.
The fucking characters. So they've kept certain things. So the lead is still called Nancy. But they've changed everything. We've got a guy called Quentin in this, and now Chris, and I think Jesse.
So Nancy's the brunette girl, right?
She was just horrible. She was absolutely horrible.
I genuinely thought for the first half of this movie that the blonde girl was our lead.
There you go. Yeah, because the blonde girl, Chris, they've merged Nancy from the original into two characters, but then just brought Nancy along.
So then I've got in my notes actually when they kill her off, the blonde girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she gets a
and
Tina
I was
treatment.
Like, wait, they killed the lead? I was like, wait, okay.
I don't know if they were trying to throw people off, or it was just.
Well, it wasn't like
stupidity.
because it was still just no build up.
And
also someone at one point, I think it's Quentin, because
right.
they go into the whole thing of when you get more and more tired from trying to stay
He's
up.
the miserable git with the hat on.
You get like micro sleeps or whatever like this. But they're only like 2 days in or something, and Quentin has gone to swimming practice. And he's doing laps in the pool, surrounded by all his like trainee buddies, and he manages to fall asleep
in
the water whilst swimming. I was like, if anything is going to keep you awake, it's being in a cold pool swimming.
It's hard to take. It's
really
hard to take.
Honestly, I knew they were going there because, like you said, it's dream scene. So I was like, okay, they're just doing the scene to build up to a dream again. And when he got to the pool to start training, I was like, they're going to do it, aren't they? They're going to make him fall asleep in the pool. They did.
Isn't it telling that even though we've just completely ripped the scenes that they've completely lifted from the original, those were still the best bits. So those were still the best. So anything that they've come up by themselves was even worse than the homages that they were paying to the original. And let me just get back to Nancy again.
Yeah.
Rooney Mara's Nancy, she was like the most insufferable female lead.
She was
ever.
Quite annoying.
And when you paired her up with Quentin, they were just a misery together. All the kids in this movie were an absolute misery.
It's certainly nothing on the original cast.
No, you don't want Nancy to die in the original.
No, you don't want any of them to die in the original.
No, you don't really want any of them to die.
It's not that I wanted anyone in this to die, but I just didn't really care.
Yeah.
Because there was no,
Even I've forgotten the character's name, Tina's boyfriend in the original. Mm-hmm. And, there's the cops are searching for him because Tina's been ripped apart in that incredible scene where she's going up the wall, up the ceiling. Mm-hmm. And like you say, when they do it in this to Chris, it's just completely inept. Has no effect whatsoever. And there are other reasons than just the way it looks. And that's that her boyfriend, who's in the room with her at the time, and the same thing happens to him. He ends up being pursued by the cops because who's going to believe him? But in the original, John Saxon's character, the cop, he knew who Tina's boyfriend was and knew the school that he went to and all this. In this one, when the kid gets arrested, it has absolutely nothing. It has no effect
personal.
on anything. There's no personal effect. They take out a lot of the
and no one else seems to care very much because again in the original they're all like it's a group of school friends, whereas in this one it's like one girl and Quentin, like that guy over there, and like there's no cohesive like that. They haven't got each other's backs in the same way.
Something else that I absolutely hate about this movie is the, was it self-referential or knowing parts where they have, dream play in the background, and there's a bit where they're driving in the car and they like have a conversation, serious conversation, and the woman's like at the end, maybe we should sleep on it. That's what I call the Scream effect. People just haven't stopped trying to insert humour into a movie since Scream, but Scream did it. And did it perfectly. Everyone afterwards just doesn't do it well. Do I have anything good? I don't have anything good to say about this film. And again, the reason The Fog has gone into number 2, that is a piss poor remake of another really cool movie. But this had so much more that it could mine from and make it an incredible movie. And they could have just made an average movie. They haven't even managed that. I mean, how hard is it just to make it not average?
It just feels like there was no love put into this.
No, there isn't any love. It all just feels completely rushed. And this is why you've got, CGI versus practical. In every sense, practical has annihilated CGI. Absolutely annihilated it. What else have I got here? I've mentioned Jackie O'Haley. Film versus digital as well. It doesn't seem like we're ever going to go back to film because it's just too expensive, too time consuming, all that. Everything's going to be shot in digital. So when we were shooting The Heathen short, I said to you, I don't want to do loads of post-production on it. I want to get it how I want it to look in real life, so it comes through. And there is just like a little bit of grain and things like this that should be in movies like that. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies shouldn't be like pristine and shiny. It doesn't help the material whatsoever.
What makes it so frightening is feeling like it could actually be true. It's not supposed to be like an Avengers movie. It's supposed to feel like this is actually out there happening. Something else
that we have in this, it doesn't make any sense. So we've got Freddy Krueger working in a school.
Yeah.
And yet we still have him taking the kids to the boiler room, which in original lore, that's where he takes the kids to kill them. In this one,
it
has nothing to do with his life. According to this story, he takes the kids to some little hole in the wall somewhere,
so he
right?
lives
in the school
on the property.
Yeah, that's the caretaker would.
And then he's got like a secret lair, which is what they were calling the cave or whatever, which is where they were abused. But yeah, and that's the other thing.
So why are they in the boiler room?
Quentin and Nancy find his like old living quarters at the shut down school. And then they've decided to do the same thing that they do in the original. If one of them goes to sleep, tries to pull Freddy out, and they deal with him, whatever. And at this point, I was so uninterested in everything else that all I was thinking and wrote down on my notes was, ew, Nancy's going to sleep in that disgusting old bed. Like that place looked so dirty and grimy, and she's like, oh, I need to go to sleep. I know, I'll pick this disgusting old bed. I'd literally rather lie on the floor. Something else that really caught my attention this time around. So we're in another nightmare sequence. I can't remember which character it is, but Freddy has killed a dog in this nightmare sequence. So I was thinking, so is this her dream where her dog is also real in the dream and he's killed the victim's dog? Or is it just a dog that's in the dream and he's used it just to show her or him to put him off guard? Yeah. Because I'm thinking, so does Freddy Krueger now infiltrate the dreams of dogs because he's killed a dog? I thought the whole point of him having this power was so that he could come back and get revenge on the children of the parents who have done this to him, but instead he's going around now and killing dogs. Why don't you just have him infiltrate the dreams of lizards while you're at it? That would make about as much sense as him infiltrating the dream of a dog. All I can see now is a lizard doing that opening with a tiny little knife. I think the last thing that I can think about saying about this movie,
are just the complete lack of imagination in the kills that they do themselves. So the kills that aren't from the original are all just, oh, Freddy stabs him with his finger glove, or Freddy has him slit his own neck while he's dreaming.
Yeah.
There is no imagination to it whatsoever. So if you're going to take stuff like lines from Freddy versus Jason, for God's sake, have some leeway and say, okay, we're going to take from the entire Freddy world, and at least we can have some real imagination behind this. Because even when the Freddy films weren't good, say like 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, at least they had imaginative kills and other things that were creatively impressive. Whereas in this, it's like, oh, Freddy, just stab him, Freddy.
Yeah, and
it was
also
lame.
that just reminded me, another thing I was like, wait, what? Was when they're doing that thing right at the end, the two of them, Nancy and Quentin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly certain I saw Freddy skewer Quentin like through the torso somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they
I
come
recall
back
that.
into, awake life, and he seems fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem he's just brushed it off.
Maybe
Rubbed some dirt in it.
Maybe Freddy and his glove couldn't penetrate through the misery that is Quentin. The misery keeps him alive.
Shield of armor.
Little git.
So yeah, not a great one for this week.
No, this is not just a bad remake. It's a bad movie. It's an absolutely abysmal attempt at a Nightmare on Elm Street film. So bad that it's killed the franchise dead, and they haven't bothered to make another one since. Yeah.
Buried it in shame.
Yeah.
So shall we move on then to one that's, I guess, at least a step up from this one?
Which is unbelievable that this is a step up of anything.
Well, hang on.
From anything.
You're really confusing me now, because I've seen The Fog, which we're talking about now, multiple times because you keep putting it on. So are you trying to say now that you don't think it's a good movie?
Well, of course I think it's a crap movie.
Then why have I seen it so many times?
Because if we've mentioned, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned on before that I have the things called sleepies. These movies which work wonders in putting me to sleep. So The Fog is in the top 10 of my sleepies. I'll pop it on and just like magic, it knocks me out. So while I'm falling asleep to it within the first 20 minutes, you're probably staying awake and witnessing the whole thing.
Over and over and over again every night.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We should actually do an episode on your sleepies, because I have a lot to say about them as well.
Sleepies are obviously not picked to keep me
That's not the point.
awake at night.
Some of them are questionable even as sleepies, as you call them, so yeah. And I can think of something off the top of my head as well.
Okay, give me an example.
It's When a Stranger Calls remake.
Well, you've only called that
It's
into
not the
question.
only one.
You've only called that into question because of about 3 seconds of footage of that film.
That's enough. It's always right when I'm about to fall asleep finally, and then you just get this ridiculously loud operatic music, and it's just like, whoop, okay, I guess I'm awake. I'll finish the rest of this movie now.
At first you thought Sleepies were dumb, but I recently purchased your favourite Sleepy.
Doom!
Yeah. Doom featuring Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yeah.
But anyway, that's got to be its whole own episode. So back to the Fog
So the
remake.
Fog, Sleepy extraordinaire, this one.
Oh my god. I also...
What do you think of the original Fog, just like briefly?
Yeah, I was going to mention, because it does make a difference here. I saw this remake version before I ever saw the original.
That's because the Fog original isn't a Sleepy, it's too good.
And honestly, I'd seen the remake like 2 or 3 times already, and I still had no bloody clue what the hell was supposed to be going on here. Terrible backstory and build-up. And it took watching the original movie for me to then be like,
fill the gaps.
Oh right, that's what it's supposed to be.
Well, that's because John Carpenter is a competent filmmaker. Rupert Wainwright Can't Touch This.
When you rewatch it, having seen the original, or just watch it having seen it, there are more clues than I thought there were at the beginning. But it's still just no. And the rest of it doesn't make up for the fact that I don't understand what's going on.
I've got one good thing to say about this film, apart from it being a sleepy, and I guess slightly funny. The only good thing about the movie I found was the shots of the ship with the pirate ghost on it at night with the rudder going or whatever. And it's not a hard shot to do or anything, but I just thought maybe because of what what the rest of the movie is. That bit, oh, that doesn't look too bad, that bit. But then the rest of it.
No, and...
If you think about, again, I started with the opening sequence of Nightmare on Elm Street, the original compared to the remake.
Yeah.
The opening of this one is just, the burning ship and people falling into the water and stuff and all that. So they just go really over the top. In the original, again, it's just like a little fisherman telling a story to a bunch of kids around a campfire for about 3 minutes. And it's just, again, way more effective with way less.
So, the fog... essentially is like some story about a modern day town that's being infiltrated by a deadly fog because of something that's happened in the town's history, like its founding fathers. And it's quite chilling in the original, and even though there are some questionable moments in this one, I don't like the cast.
What, Superman?
The guys especially. Oh god, so annoying.
What about Spooner?
I don't mind
Superman and Spooner as a duo.
He's just, it's like, why is he there? And some random little fishing
Well,
village.
he's Gilly. He's Gilly from Chicago.
What?
He's come from Chicago. There's a bit at the end where he's like, I'm not from here, I'm from Chicago, y'all. He makes it very clear that he's not from here.
But then why would you leave Chicago and go to this shithole little island?
So the pirate ghosts don't need to get him, they can leave him alone. Yeah, why would you move? Well, he's moved there to be Gilly, to Superman's captain.
Who the hell is Gilly?
He's Gilly on the boat. Remember when Superman and Spooner are taking those two dudes out fishing?
Yeah.
And Superman gives Spooner orders, and he calls him Gilly. He's like, "I'm Skipper, you're Gilly." That's why you've got to do what I'm told. And then later on, Spooner gets on a boat with his mate, with two dancing girls when he's filming it. And he tells his mate to go and do something, and he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "'Cause I'm Skipper, and you're Gilly." Now he's the skipper.
He's just very obnoxious. But somehow...
Sushi?
Oh my god.
Did you like that stuff?
No, I didn't like
and what
any
about,
of it.
Damn, you're sexy when you're mad. Did you like that?
No, I don't like that.
Well, you must have thought he was sexy at the time, because Tom Welling, Superman, was putting on a roll neck.
See, I can't... Every time. I think that's why you put it on all the time, because you like to tease me about loving roll necks or something. But in that scene that you mentioned, so Spooner and
Spooner
and Superman's cousin have taken Superman's boat out with a couple of chicks, and they're like blasting
Do you know
music.
what? The amount of times I've seen it, I had no idea that was Superman's cousin. Where was that put into the movie? Where did it say?
At one point, he's like, "It's my cousin's boat."
Right. Well, that led nowhere, did it? He doesn't have to be anybody, does he?
No, I literally only... This is also the first time viewing this because I really paid attention when we did it for this review show. I really tried to, watch it properly. So, yeah, I found out that's the connection there, because that bit always confused me as well. And then the two girls and the cousin, when the fog comes, they all get offed, right?
Well, except for Spooner.
But, I didn't mention Spooner, I said the girls and the cousin. So then Spooner, we assume, surely he must be killed, because he was more in touch with the fog than the girls were, for example.
Well, he was standing in it and looking at the ship.
Yeah, he was right out there in the fog.
Yeah.
Primed to be offed. But then when Superman goes and finds his boat out in the middle of nowhere, Spooner's just locked in the freezer.
Yeah.
He's like, the fog couldn't get me there.
Yeah, Spooner's been frozen.
Froze himself to get away from the fog.
Spooner's frozen himself.
Like, how did he know to do that? It makes no
Survival
sense.
Survival instincts kick in.
What? So you think, there's a fog, people are dying. I know, I have to escape the fog and go and lock myself in the freezer.
The fog couldn't infiltrate the suction cups around.
Yeah, it's
around
just
the freezer.
one of the first flaws in many flaws of this film.
You mentioned the word chilling when you were talking about something from the original, a few minutes ago. Something that gives the chills always in movies is when you set the opening and you go into the credits and you blast a little Fallout Boy. That always keeps me. That always keeps me in the movie. Some happy jolly Fallout Boy,
because they're going into. I did like Selma Blair. I always like Selma Blair. She's the radio DJ.
What you mean, Stevie the radio DJ?
She loves her microphone. Anyway, we're going straight into her broadcasting.
I like Selma Blair, but I thought her character was just so annoying.
going into her broadcasting from her own radio show. So they literally could have chosen any music they wanted that they thought this character would find cool, and they choose Fall Out Boy.
Well, yeah, she is playing Fall Out Boy at the beginning, but I would also say that as a DJ, her musical choices are very inconsistent. Yeah. There's no cohesion between anything. It's just like, oh, you've got some Jamiroquai now, and now here's some hard trance. And it seems like everyone in this town is always listening to the radio. Like, no one's listening to their own personal music. Everyone is tuned in to Stevie's pirate radio station in the evening, including when Spooner and Superman's cousin are on the boat with those two women. Mm-hmm. And they said, Spooner is filming these two women. And he's saying stuff like, we got booty on the boat. We got booty on the show. And it's like, Superman's cousin asked him a question. He's like, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because we got beer. And you know what else? We got beer. Booty on the boat. So that was chilling as well. You know, that keeps me in the, wow, I'm really setting down for a horror movie here. And it seems like he wasn't doing much of a stretch when it comes to acting, because I've listened to some of the commentary of this movie. Now, I say some. I love a movie commentary, but I couldn't get through. I couldn't get through it with Rupert Wainwright, the blithering idiot. And he was talking on the commentary about him and DeRay were just like comparing notes about women, essentially. And during the press tour for this movie, Rupert Wainwright apparently really pissed off Selma Blair with some joke that he made. He's just an absolute buffoon. And at this point, I don't know if you remember, but we've seen him on an episode of a trash TV program called The Millionaire Matchmaker. And he goes out with this absolutely stunning and patient Russian woman and takes her to a soup kitchen in a limousine. Mm-hmm. And then they're at dinner and he's directing her how to eat, and she's not liking it at all.
Really? I thought women loved that.
Slower. Saying, I've never known anyone to tell anyone else how to eat, but Rupert Wainwright, this is a must
my mum did tell me not to
view
schmatz. Episode
of just TV. You don't need to watch any of the rest of it, just the episode, and you will get what this guy is like and how he's been put in charge of a couple of Hollywood movies. I'll never know, because he also directed Stigmata.
Well, another thing I don't really understand with their choices in this is that what's the character or the actor called Superman guy? Because I can't just keep calling him Superman. Tom Welling. So he's obviously supposed to be the sort of good guy main like moral point or whatever, and he's in a relationship with some girl who like disappeared for 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And he's been sleeping with the radio DJ
Stevie
in like the time that she's been gone.
Yeah, single mother Steve. Is that his kid? He's not taking responsibility for it. Because who else is she having sex with on that island? There's barely anybody there.
And then, when he's driving home at night, he sees some like female hitchhiker and he like scopes her out to be like, yeah, she's hot enough to pick up. And surprise, surprise, it's his girlfriend. And I was like, he's such a piece of shit, really. You either break up with someone or you don't, because he's not only sleeping with Stevie, he's picking up strange female hitchhikers who he deems hot enough.
Well, I think
flirting with them.
This is a direct consequence of having Rupert Wainwright in charge.
I just didn't find him likeable, and it's even worse when people do questionable stuff, and then the rest of it is still painted like there's some moral.
Something else. So yeah, I'm directly blaming that on the director, and something else I'm going to blame on the director. Right? You said you like Stevie or Selma Blair, or whatever, right?
But I just always like Selma Blair.
So Stevie has, like I say, she's a single mother. She's got a son, and there's a part in the movie where she's sleeping in bed, and her son runs into the bedroom, and her son's quite old. He must be like what, on the cusp of 11, sure. Maybe 11. And she's like, "Oh hey, son," and all of a sudden she comes out from under the covers, and she's wearing a skimpy vest, a tiny little pair of underwear and knee socks. Clearly, again, it's the director's going, oh yeah, I want to see a woman in knee socks and little knickers. Not thinking about, oh, this is really weird that she's like currently all over her son. He's going to end up like Maniac, the character Maniac, whose, mother over-sexualized herself in front of him. That was, again, bizarre choices. That's directly because of the director. You have to see... if you looked at the word smarmy in the dictionary, it should have a picture of Rupert Wainwright next to it.
I also don't feel like there was much of a build up to. So I know that Stevie's got a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they end up having to, like, save him and stuff. But I noticed when I was rewatching this time and really paying attention again, I was like, there's no mention of him for absolutely ages. Whereas, I don't know when he comes in the original, but he comes in some very important parts. Like, the detritus he picks up from the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, which
He doesn't
also
told
magically
not to.
changes in the original. It just, I don't know, it has more, like, build up of something's going on. And in this one, it's just, again, smack on the face.
Well, in terms of just storyline, the original storyline is a group of lepers who have been, you know, killed, come back to take revenge, a bit like Freddy does, really. You know, takes revenge on people who have wronged him from these families, and Superman's family being one of the families, and all the other characters in the movie are all in on it. But in this one, the pirate ghosts come back. He just comes back to get Elizabeth, who apparently is his love. So he's not really interested in getting revenge and killing everyone off for, you know, taking his life and all the lepers' life. Instead, he just comes back and gets Elizabeth, because again, the director said, I was more interested in the love story angle of this movie. Then why have you been chosen to direct it if you've been given the fog? And yet I really want to concentrate on the love story, the romance in this movie. And it's so bad that at the end, when Elizabeth goes and kisses the pirate ghost, for no fucking reason, by the way, we then get slow spinny camera around their kiss, does a full 360 while like classical music plays. Like, am I watching The Fog, or am I watching some stage play of some, you know, 17th century opera?
I absolutely want to get back into that, because that moment is one of the most baffling for me in this entire thing. But they show this, like, snippets of the backstory. They show, like, the founding fathers making a deal with the leper colony on their boat, and then they completely wrong them and take everything they've got and then try and burn them on their boat. So yeah, we've been shown this, we're literally led to believe that these people have made a deal that they've reneged on, and that's why they're coming to take revenge.
Exactly.
But yeah,
and then they burnt them to death.
Yeah, and we see them, like, doing this, but then and also the girl finds a diary of one of the founding fathers. So, as he's alluding to what's going on, that's when we get the flashes. Yeah. Which, by the way, she found in water that's about this deep, but manages to make her fear for her life.
Yeah, and she just happened to be walking over a piece of wood that looked like a plank. So it's almost like, oh, we've got pirate ghosts in the movie. We've got to have someone walking a plank somewhere. And the fall into the water was also laughable. There's nothing natural about it.
No, they didn't. Yeah, no, they didn't need any of that. And apparently that was supposed to mirror something that, again, in one of these flashbacks of the woman of the boat, you know, drowning or whatever. But going back to what my original point was, you've already said at the end, when the two of them kiss, and apparently that just stops everything, you know, that saved it, because all he wanted was his wife.
Love conquers all.
And also, can we also mention the fact that when they kiss and everything's apparently better again, it's just like all the leprosy just...
Yeah, that cures leprosy.
Just disappears.
Well, love, you know, the fog can't beat love, and love also conquers leprosy. Love is the cure.
And I was just thinking, there's so many questions I have for this. First of all...
Where can I get some love to cure my leprosy?
It's fair enough maybe for this one guy that he just wants to go and find his love.
The leper leader.
But, like, what about all the others who were in that boat when it was burnt? And, like, they're just supposed to be happy with that now.
Well, I guess maybe the thinking is, well, they're lepers, no one cares about them.
And also, in the diary, or something, some point it's mentioned blood for blood.
Blood for blood.
So again, isn't that just hammering home the thing of, oh, well, you killed us, so we're going to kill you? Not just, oh, I'm coming back for my wife.
You just quoted the blood for blood line, which is, you know, Father Malone. And we get we get the direct Father Malone character in this film, and he's always drunk.
He just knows stuff, even though I have no idea how he knows it.
He just knows stuff, and there's a part, I think we're about 2/3 way through the movie, and one of our characters just happens to come upon him sitting in a graveyard, staring at a stone wall, which has been, you know, graffitied, it's been graphed up, and again he's talking about stuff that's gonna happen, which no one else knows yet except for me. But what I was going through my head was, he said that, yeah, the ghost pirates have come and given us a message. So what, the ghost pirates, you know, they rolled into town in the fog. They went to the hardware store, stole some neon hot pink paint, and wrote a message on the wall for the townspeople. That's what happened? That's what I'm supposed to believe what happened. They sent one of the pirate goats off to B&Q to get some hot neon. Was he told to get some hot neon pink? You know, to really put it out there, or was that just his choice? He's come back after all this time. He's like, oh, we didn't have hot neon pink. I'm gonna try this out. Fucking stupid. Fucking stupid.
My next question that this brought up was, so they're insinuating that Superman's girlfriend this whole time has been the, like, way past leper's wife, but she's also supposed to be the direct descendant of one of the founding fathers.
Yeah. So she's supposed to die as well.
It's so
really
confusing, and it's not like just her soul is in there. Like she looks the same because
she's the same.
So
it's the same person, just in a different time.
Like, are they suggesting she's been alive this whole time and she's just forgotten stuff, or
you know, when we first bump into her, when Superman picks her up in the car, as you were saying, we get little hints, you know, that she is going to be something. She's just sort of like, oh, I've been away for 6 months because I don't belong on this island.
You know I don't belong.
Yeah, you know I don't belong here. Talk about that pickup. So you made a point of Superman, Tom Welling. His character's name is actually Nick Castle, which is the same as the guy from the original, which is Nick Castle, the film producer, director from back in the day. And in this one, he picks her up, just thinking, like you said, it's some random broad, right, on the street. Turns out it's his ex. He's like, oh no, I knew it was you. I knew it was you. His actual girlfriend. Anyway, they're driving back, and stuff happens. In the original, it's the great Tom Atkins picks up Jamie Lee Curtis, and they're just strangers because she's just hitchhiking and he's driving.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, that's a weird storyline there too. But at least
in that one though, he's just picked her up and they're talking, having a conversation in the little pickup truck. Cut. Next thing you know, they're waking up. They're in bed together. They've just done it. They've been rutting because they're smoking afterwards. You know, this is 1980, so probably was filmed in 79, so still the 70s. Where in this one, he picks her up and we have a big break, and then they just have a slow motion shower sequence to show their love.
We really needed
I liked
that.
the more to the point. Let's not mess around here. I'm hitchhiking. I think you're hot. Your tash is really doing it for me. Let's rut and then smoke.
Yeah, and also I just found it was so unnecessary to have them, like, shown making love in this movie. There was no point. We get it. They're, like, you know, kind of back together, even though he's been cheating on her the whole time, and God knows what she's been doing. Because
of how inept this movie is, I never realised how much I do dislike the characters in the film. And again, unfortunately, it's come from me just comparing again Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis to.
Well, I disliked them before I'd even seen the original. So for me, it's not a comparison. It's just, nah. Yeah. It's just not quality.
They're still supposed to be actors and putting on characters that you're supposed to care about. And again, I just want everyone to die. Just die. Even love interest girl at the end. You know, I wish that kiss. His breath must have been so bad that I wish he just like whisked away from that alone.
And also, it made no sense, like, again, we've mentioned this, how Spooner survives on the ship, even though he was the most enveloped in fog. And this theme kind of continues, because again, when Nick Castle and his girlfriend have heard Stevie over the radio saying, someone go help my son, they do go and help the son. And by this point, the auntie or whoever it is that's looking after him, she's been offed by the fog pirates. But the son is still fine.
Mm-hmm. Of course, because you have to use a test audience, you know, when you remake a classic horror, just to make sure that everyone's okay with it. You know, you need something nice to round off the movie.
But there's no consistency. It's like the fog's either in
Who gives a damn about
not.
consistency?
I do.
It doesn't seem like filmmakers care about consistency.
Shit.
Why should we? Why should we give it any consideration?
Yeah.
So this is a brain dead remake. Once again, I just want to remind everyone that it is number 2. It's come above Nightmare on Elm Street. That it couldn't be. Well,
as far as I was concerned, you love it, so you play it enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't even play Nightmare on Elm Street 4. You know, it's not funny. It's not bad enough that it's funny even, and you can't laugh
roll
it.
Necks in it.
There's no roll neck. There's just nothing.
There's no sushi.
There's nothing. There's nothing charming about it to bring it back. Where at least this one is just flat out stupid. Yeah, and
with a pretty sick mixed soundtrack.
Yeah, Jamiroquai, Fall Out Boy, some techno. that's the kind of thing I'd be thinking about if I was making The Fog. You know, what contemporary artists
Maybe a bit Stormzy.
can we get into our movie?
Some Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this one.
This is a pathetic movie. Absolutely pathetic. Rupert Wainwright, who did this and did Stigmata. Stigmata is also not a great movie, but at least, you know, as much as I said it doesn't work that music video directors don't do a good job of remaking horrors, at least Stigmata wasn't a remake, and it visually it is kind of cool to look at, and the story is still better than this. The story is still completely not tied up well in Stigmata either. So the guy, you know, he both these movies went to number one in the box office. He always talked like, yes, both my movies were number one in the box office. But it's a bit like Snow White being number one worldwide now. It's like it's still completely underperformed and everyone's super underwhelmed by it. And this is what he's got here. And please, you have to check out Millionaire Matchmaker with Rupert Wainwright. Because it is good, and it's something else, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. So number one.
Yeah, I've been dying to talk about this one ever since we watched it.
Because of your new same-sex crush.
No, that's not why. Because I got so many, like, just funny, like, things to write down in my notes.
So your review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake would be funny, and the newspaper put it as fabulous. So it's fabulous and funny, the TCM remake.
I did even a summary of this, of what I thought. Mm-hmm. Overall, not bad, quite nicely shot, some good moments that nod to the original, but lacking in the over-the-top. They went there, but it was tame compared to the insanity of the original. And also Leatherface was off. Yeah,
I've got pretty much the same. You said you like the cinematography. It's the same guy that did the original who came back to do this. So the whole point is that he wanted this to be his first and last movie. So the last thing he ever did was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Personally, I didn't hate the way it was shot, but I also didn't think it was good. I thought, again, it was just another thing which has been completely sanitized. There's nothing grimy or dirty about this movie.
Yeah, like I said.
There's no feeling to it whatsoever. If we compare, so we've mentioned music in all three movies now. They do the same thing here, and even though it's supposed to be, I think, 1973 or whatever, when they're driving in the van at the beginning, the fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd comes on. I'm completely taken out of the movie when I'm hearing, you know, Sweet Home Alabama. There's nothing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre that is Sweet Home Alabama.
And it's funny because they've clearly done that for such a specific reason, but
yeah, look, we're in the time.
One of the first things that struck me in this was like, oh wait, they've just told us it's in like early 70s, but these people in the car couldn't seem more modern, like everything about them.
Especially like the pretty guy with the boldish blonde hair, the guy who gets skewered on the hook.
Right.
He has like that emo Blink-182 kind of hair, and I'm like, yeah, his guy is not around in 1973. Well,
just not a single one of them did that to me.
Especially him.
But they were like really hamming up. They're like, no, this is 70s, because they had them doing like free love stuff. Like they just picked up someone, they were already like all over each other. They had weed. They were like, yeah, this is so 70s. I was like,
but then
no.
they would do that. But then a character. So the guy that was driving the car, I don't remember what his character's name is. The guy driving the car would Kemper, that's it. The guy would just say something that the terminology hadn't even been invented in the 70s. And again, it's another thing that just took you completely out the film. Talk about being taken completely out of film. Jesus Christ, Jessica Biel. I mean, I couldn't concentrate on anything else.
That was actually the first thing that was in my head, but you were still talking.
This is one of the most smoking a lady's ever looked in a movie.
I don't know how any like straight male can concentrate watching this film, because as a straight woman I was mesmerized. I mean, dead ass.
Yeah.
Damn, she's fine.
There wasn't anyone in the original did it for me. How about, you know, yeah, none of them did that. But that's probably the advantage of having a wardrobe budget in the remake, where they can change clothes and stuff. Where in the original, Marilyn Burns, who plays Jessica Biel's character, had to wear the same clothes for the entire shoot in like 120 degree heat or whatever it was. I mean, and that's the kind of thing that shows.
I don't think it was wardrobe, Johnny. I think it's just Jessica Biel.
Maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, she kind of carries the whole movie, just because whenever anything isn't as great, she's there. So, you know, you can
there's Jessica Biel. Yeah, she's looking great. Yeah, and it's almost like she's not even trying hard to look, or they've
Well,
not
no,
tried
she's
hard
just
to make
got
her
an
look
incredible
to look
body.
great. Yeah,
Incredible body.
you went through a bit of a run through of the
My
movie,
overall feelings
your overall
and
feeling for the
thoughts.
movie. I did a kind of a similar thing as well, and surprise, surprise, the first thing I've got here is her beauty took me out of the movie. So that was just thank you, Jessica Biel. After that, though, I've got it's too slick again, right? No feeling. The look of Leatherface and just Leatherface in general
weird.
was. I mean, apparently he's a 300-pound guy. He didn't look anywhere near as intimidating as Gunnar Hansen from the original. I thought it sucked.
But what they did with his mask and hair, like his
Yeah,
hair
the
looks
mask and
so
hair was-
weird.
was
It's like
poor.
Michael Myers when they do later versions. It just looks.
It's
strange.
another case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. Also got bad script, poor humor, scream effect again, trying too hard. So again, they try too hard, much like in Nightmare on Elm Street, to make it hardcore or whatever, or gritty, or
Even though
like,
it's
oh,
so
this is
tame
so.
compared to the original.
And that's the thing. There's not one
I don't really
instance.
know how you could do over the top compared to the original though,
There's-
because they nailed it.
There's not one instance in this movie where it betters anything
No.
from the original again.
Apart
So-
from just her body.
I'd seen this movie only once before actually, and I remember just not disliking it or anything like that.
No, I'd watch it again.
But after watching it this time, I remember it being better than I enjoyed it this time. I think it's still a pretty poor. It's certainly a poor Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So I would still watch all of the originals, including like the Renee Zellweger one. Over
I like
this,
that one.
I would definitely watch all of those over this. Nothing is improved again. So we've got the hook hanging homage. It's just it doesn't have any effect.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. Even when they try to take him off it again, Jessica tries to lift him off it and things, and the same thing happens in the original. It tries to lift itself off, but it's the way it's shot, it's the way the movie is, the feeling, what it's shot on, the conditions that it's shot on. You can't remake that. You know, that's just something that was existing at that point in time with just that group of people,
And especially-
you can't transfer it.
It's going to have to be sanitized because of regulations and stuff. Like, if you want to do something as gritty, if not more gritty than the original, you have to be like completely off the grid kind of crew of people who are just willing to get as filthy as the original guys
Filthy,
did.
yeah, make a filthy movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you just take the dinner table scene in the original, it just destroys everything in this. Just
But also, like, there was nothing wrong with the settings and stuff in this one, but it's
No.
nothing like, oh wow, you know,
Another
the
example
original's
of-
so
yeah.
special.
Another example of the try-hard nature of this film was if you take Grandpa from the original, and when they tried to give him the hammer, and he hasn't got the strength to hit Marilyn Burns over the head with the hammer. In this one, they kind of swap it, and they have an old geezer in a wheelchair, and there's a bit where he's purposely taken himself out of the wheelchair because he's let Jessica Biel in the house to look around, and he's calling for help. And as Jessica Biel goes to see him, she's like trying to lift him up and put him back in his chair. And as she's doing that, you know, he's feeling her up. And it is like, oh, dirty old bastard. But it still didn't have the ultimate feel of this is repulsive, this is grimy. Just had just too
But
much
I
of an
also
edge of
feel
trying
like that,
hard.
again,
trying too
what's
hard.
happening could have been really good
Yeah.
in that. But, like, for example, it takes away the fact that she doesn't even seem to react.
No, she doesn't react whatsoever, does she? No.
It takes away from it. Also, I was going to say, so going a bit more chronologically, at the beginning, after we've heard Lynyrd Skynyrd and found out that the two lovers in the back have only just met and all of this stuff, we find out that Kemper and the other guy had used this trip to smuggle pot into the country, and Jessica Biel first just thinks, like, has like a clue that this might be the case, and he lies to her again, being like, no, I didn't. And then eventually the pot is literally just like bursts out of the pinata they were using. What a great disguise, by the way. And she's pissed off, but then he like chucks the weed out into nowhere and is like, I'm sorry. And she forgives him.
Well, he has a kind heart. He's not just a drug dealer. You know, he's a drug dealer with a conscience.
And also I should mention, because this kind of comes back and it made me take note. So they've already picked up one hitchhiker.
Baby, can I just stop you there for a second?
Oh, okay.
God, the hitchhiking original, about as memorable as you can get. This one, just swap it out for, you know, a sobbing woman who blows her brains out. The original hitchhiker doesn't do anything near as violent as that. You know, he does get a bit crazy and stuff, but you just couldn't. There's another point where they couldn't remake the feeling. even one little bit with that hitchhiker. And that hitchhiker scene is an iconic scene.
Yeah.
And it's another failure.
But in this one, I hadn't actually... She was the one I was about to mention. So they've already got one random guy in the back, because he's all girl, who's they're making out. But they find this woman, like young woman, wandering around covered in blood and
With
clearly
a bad haircut.
traumatized. Terrible haircut, but that's not the point. And so they bring her into their van and they're like, let us drive you home and stuff. And she's being really, really unhelpful. Like, she's not really saying much. She just looks a bit deranged. And I thought maybe she was actually supposed to be part of the crazy family and this was all a setup to get them into the craziness. But it turns out she's just one of the lone survivors of them, the family. And she, like, when they drive off the road to the petrol station or something to get help, she starts going, no! And yeah, she eventually ends up pulling out a gun from her crotch.
Yeah, a gun from her crotch.
I don't know how she got it there without anyone seeing it before this, but apparently she got
But
it
we're
off the
talking about
sheriff.
it being stuck up her crotch. Because she couldn't have been walking along with her
yeah.
legs like that the whole time down the road.
Yeah. Oh, and she's
bleeding from
probably
there.
just given birth because that's loads of blood coming out there. So she takes this gun that she had hidden and she, blows a massive hole in her head. Now this is when, the group, our main group, they try and seek sort of help because they've got this dead body and this dead body is just in the back for ages. And I think the next thing I noticed was that when they ask for the sheriff and they're told at one point, oh, you can go to his place. You can't go there with a car, though. You're going to have to walk. And I was like, do they not even stop for a second to think that it's really bizarre that the sheriff of somewhere can't even drive off of his property?
Well, I guess if they've got a dead body in the back of their van, they're not in their right minds, possibly.
They seemed pretty calm, considering. Oh, and also, when they get to this petrol station, the two girls go off to find the bathroom. They don't go into the diner area, by the way, which would have made more sense looking for a bathroom. They go off and find this outhouse with a lock on it. And again, instead of just going in and asking, can I have the key so I can use the toilet, she just breaks into the crapper.
Yeah. How about the more family-friendly angle of this remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Because they've inserted just, a little strange-looking but still quite cute-looking child who helps our heroes to escape from Leatherface and the rest.
He actually gives a brilliant performance in this, and I was wondering at one point whether it's because the prosthetic teeth that they've made him wear were actually making him like all the time, because he did these things with his mouth and tongue that I was like, that's great acting, but maybe it was just uncomfortable.
Not only do we get the insertion of the helpful kid, we also get Jessica Biel rescuing a newborn baby.
Oh,
who doesn't belong
that's
to
right
the clan.
towards the end, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about the family-friendly aspect of it, though.
Okay.
We've got babies and children in
Yeah,
in
the
this
little
one.
boy
Rescued babies and
that
children.
they stumble upon. He does. He ends up he's part of the Sawyer family.
Well, they're not called the Sawyers in this.
I'm just going to call them that, though,
Yeah.
comparatively. I don't know what they're called in this.
the Holbrooks. Something like that.
Smiths.
Yeah.
No, he's part of the family, but he's good.
I'm Leatherface Robertson.
Maybe he has a crush on Jessica Biel as well, because he does help her get away to his own detriment. But not before, as you say, Jessica Biel steals back the baby, which obviously is from the woman that they picked up in the first place, right? Yeah. And
she replaced her baby with a gun. One out, one in.
We're skipping way ahead, but I have to say it anyway because you brought the baby up. So she steals this baby, and she finds a car that she hot wires whatever, and she's driving off, and the sheriff guy who's part of the family is trying to stand her down. So she runs him over. He's on the ground. Then she drives backwards over him, and then forwards over him again. And we've seen this before in movies, and obviously, the car is bouncing around quite crazy. So in my notes I was like, oh, so where's the baby? And then literally right after she's driven off, she looks over and we have this shot of this angelic, colourful little baby in a basket, no seatbelts anywhere, no sign that it's dishevelled by this bouncing up and down car. It's just happy, just
It has that
I
that
am
thing
magic baby.
that has that thing that babies are known for, which is incredible balance when they're sitting
Being
down.
chucked about.
The baby was lit in such a way that I thought it was a CGI
Angelic
baby.
yeah.
I thought it was a CGI baby. So that's not a real
Because they
baby.
made all the
That's a baby.
the weirdo family. They made them all like really grey and lacking in colour. So even when Jessica Biel first sees the baby with the two women, it looks like they've put some sort of glow effect on the baby. It is really weird.
Do you know, there's similarities in another remake where Hills of Eyes, they have a helpful mutant child in that one, and they also have the baby. But do they off the baby in the Hills of Eyes in the end, or does the baby survive?
No,
it does survive. Okay, well, fair enough. I was going to give it more kudos then for a second, because this has clearly gone through the whole, you know, we've got to please the audience, because we've gone through test screenings. You shouldn't be test screening any Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Test screenings are not what Texas Chainsaw Massacre was made for. So they've obviously gone, we should probably have her rescue the baby so that people don't get too upset about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And how about we put in a cute little kid in there who can help our four main cast escape Leatherface? People will love that. They'll love it, wouldn't they? This film is actually pretty shit. Yeah, I've put it number 1, and I used to think it was actually okay, but it's another pointless piece of work. Completely pointless. You said you might watch it again. I have so many
more great things to mention, though.
I would feel no need to watch this film again.
We get a scene as well when they find this like graveyard of old cars.
Oh yeah.
And the guy with the specs in this group, he's like, for some reason, decides to feel around through a hole in some old trunk.
He's supposed to be the Franklin, isn't he? But without a wheelchair.
And he gets attacked by something with his arm in the trunk. Or does he?
Psych! Yeah.
And I was like, why do they do this in every bloody movie? Every movie. And also, they always do it to the point where, because they're trying to psych us as the audience. So the actors are like doing their best acting of like something's actually going wrong. I was like, no one in a group of friends who's in this kind of situation would ever do that.
Yeah, maybe that's just a ploy, you know, so that you're made to feel that you want him to die. Because you didn't want him to die before that, did you? Because he was such a cool character.
Well, he's got specs, so he must be nice.
Well, he's also got very annoying facial hair. So I wish you would just chainsaw that bit off.
And now I've got another couple of memories. So Kemper gets got by Leatherface, and Leatherface cuts his face off. Yep. So when Jessica Biel's running away at one point, you look back and Leatherface has Kemper's face on it.
But she doesn't just look back. I think Leatherface gives the old surprise. Yeah, and there was something really off about the mask of Kemper's head.
Yeah, it looked weird.
Yeah, it did look weird, and not in a creepy way or a scary way. Just a bit weird.
Now,
just a bit weird.
I also have to make this to me is maybe my favourite comment on the entire movie. I don't remember which of the main characters is running away from Leatherface at this point, but one of them is running away from him, and we know how dirty the Sawyer family is portrayed to be in all of this, right? And yet for some reason they've got laundry for days, laundry forever, because we get so many shots of the guy running through laundry, then Leatherface behind him running through laundry, then back to the guy running through laundry, then back to Leatherface running through laundry, and we get this for like a kilometre's worth of white hanging laundry.
I've seen a lot of horror laundry scenes. Get him in one.
That one went on for
one of the
ages.
Halloweens. You get it in It, but yeah, like you just said, this one just goes on forever.
It's never jumped out at me just how much laundry these people must have out there.
I guess all the slaughtering the blood calls for multiple washing
they're
machines.
Bleaching all their whites.
Yeah, maybe they're not as dirty as you think they are.
Right, then I've got someone cleaves off Leatherface's arm, so no more chainsaw.
Not anyone. It's the £90 Jessica Biel.
Oh, it is Jessica Biel
who hacks off his arm with just a couple of swipes, like 1, 2, 3, arm off.
Well, you can tell she's been in the gym though.
Yeah. I don't think she's been pounding weight.
So yeah,
as I said,
poor Leatherface. He can't use his favourite thing anymore.
300 pounds. He weighs 300 pounds.
Yeah. And now, okay, I've only got one more thing actually.
How many swipes of my shoulder do you think it would take for you to remove my arm from my body? with that tiny
What
little
did
knife
she use
as well.
Oh, wasn't it? It was from one of those paper cutter things, which we've seen recently as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something that shouldn't be that effective, basically.
Yeah. Well, you know, with everything else in this movie, that wasn't the first thing. But I did think it was like, oh, how is he going to use his chainsaw now?
Personally, I don't want to see an armless Leatherface.
Now, the final thing that I felt the need to write down, although technically the baby in the car with the police guy was the last thing I wrote, but at some point Jessica Biel has gotten away and she gets picked up by a friendly trucker guy who sees she's in distress, and now she's in the same sort of situation that we saw right at the beginning of the movie where they picked up the blonde lady who shot herself. And Jessica Biel's character is doing exactly the same inexplicably stupid thing of just not saying anything, and when the trucker goes to get help and again drives off towards the petrol station, which we know is bad, she just goes berserk. And I'm like, why does nobody ever just like actually explain anything?
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's really annoying.
If you start screaming and grabbing the wheel.
No, because obviously, understandably, he gets a bit weirded out and annoyed, and then it's all just going to go to pot again, isn't it?
Yeah, so at that point, I think I wanted her to die as well. I mean, you've been smoking hot for the entire movie. I'm over the hotness now after that display.
And also, one of the two women, obviously, they've gone through a lot of like trauma. I can understand one of the two, like they wanted to show how that can affect you, but why would they both have the exact same reaction of just being irrationally quiet and unable to explain why they don't want to go somewhere? It's really frustrating.
I do recall that the cast from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in terms of the teens, they're not inherently likable. They're not a lovable bunch. They're kind of annoying as well.
One or two of them in particular.
But then this one again just takes it to a whole other level. And you pointing out them having the exact same reaction to trauma. As soon as they started doing that, well, before they both started showing signs of it, by the time the first one was doing it, just like, get rid of this woman. Just kill her.
It is really frustrating. It's so frustrating. That's
it's
why
just
I
another
thought she
trope,
might have
isn't
been
it?
part of the family, because I was like, why would anyone else not be more forthcoming?
It's like recently, you now get so the Evil Dead remake, the Hellraiser remake. It's always just a girl who is trying to kick heroin, so they take her to the woods or they take her here, or whatever. Now we've got that, and before in this era, the early noughties, you just had the same character constantly going around. Still have that to this day, to a worse degree in other remakes or reboots like The Craft and Wrong Turn, which are probably even worse than Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's how bad they are. So again, remake or not, this is just another throwaway kind of slasher movie. Really,
yeah,
call
but
that. It doesn't have any iconic scenes. Zero iconic scenes again. Much like the Nightmare on Elm Street, you leave out the fog. It's not on the same level as the other two in terms of shots and things and memorable kills and things like that. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street, you have this, and neither of the new lot who did these movies did anything with any of that. When they did just try to rip it off, it was just completely ineffective.
I would say that of the three, I would watch TCM with like a group of friends when you're only half paying attention and you want like a horror movie on.
Yeah, I can see that.
That would be
background noise.
Acceptable. Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't even have that.
No, I was gonna not.
It doesn't. I
wouldn't sit down with my mates and watch The Fog either.
It serves
no matter
no
how much
purpose.
alcohol's involved.
It serves no purpose. I wouldn't even want to fall asleep to Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It's just so bad.
Wouldn't even fall asleep to it.
It's just so bad.
Johnny's worst
and
review ever.
The fact that the same geezer pretty much made all of these, nothing to do with The Fog, but Michael Bay with his he's gonna be given the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th, and pretty much balls all of them up.
Well, we should maybe do an episode at some point about good remakes, because there
are some good remakes.
Some out there.
There are a few.
I think you're kind of setting yourself up for failure generally, because you're always trying to remake things that are already so loved, and it's just how are you supposed to better that?
Yeah, but if you consider a remake to be, like John Carpenter's The Thing, which came out I think in '82, but that is a remake of a movie from the '50s. So the technology and all, and just the way that you can present the movie and stuff is completely different. Whereas now there are no more leaps and bounds. It's all the same. So there's nothing more that you can do, which is what is already out there. And it's just more and more. Every time I see these remakes, I just feel like it's a waste of time even watching that. And actually, at all 3 points of watching these movies, I caught myself thinking to myself, I wish I was just watching the original right now. I just wish I had the original on right now. I don't care that we're even doing it for like a review show. I just want to watch the originals. So that says pretty much everything about them. There aren't many. The Hills of Eyes were pretty good remakes. I actually think the Hills of Eyes remake is probably better than the original Hills of Eyes, just in terms of a piece of work.
It's one of the few movies I'd seen for you that actually creeped me out. So it's got something to it. Definitely.
So there certainly are some good remakes. I've got no problem with remakes as long as they're good, but these are not good, unless you want to fall asleep to the fog.
So yeah, until next week.
So I would say that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was not fabulous, despite what is branded on the back of that DVD cover there.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd say that.
It is beautiful, yeah, and there hasn't been that, you'd be hard pressed to, beat the beauty of Jessica Biel in this movie in another horror movie. But still, it wasn't enough for me to even want to keep her alive in the end. Just die. That's what I've got to say about everybody.
And on that pleasant note,
the character, just die, die already.
YouTube's definitely going to cancel this movie. this episode, I mean. Just shouting die at the camera.
Maybe that should be the clip to entice people into this week's episode.